Okay.
Okay, so we are at the letter G. Who are we featuring for the letter G?
G is for Nikki Giovanni
Nikki
of
Giovanni,
several books. Um,
incredible writer, poet.
Professor and host of this show called Soul in the 70s, which was an amazing show. So these old episodes of Soul, and I was like, whoa, what the hell is this show? And it was this brilliant variety show where they had poets, they had musicians, they had Muhammad Ali went there, they had like revolutionaries, they had Black Panthers there. And that conversation, so Nikki Giovanni was one of the hosts. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this show is the most amazing thing. It was only on air for a couple of years because obviously it very much threatened the status quo. But
they need to bring them back.
You just have to watch it. So recommendation number one, watch Soul. Yes, Nikki Giovanni is a great poet. She's a great writer. She's an academic, all those kinds of things. But what I love most about her is her as the host of Soul and the interviews that she did and the conversation she has with James Baldwin.
Changed in the last, since Martin Luther King, since 54. I think the only thing that's really changed is the Black woman. And what she
No, I
said...
don't think she's changed. I think she's become more visible.
I think she's changed. Because there was a time, let's say my mother, my aunts and things like that, they would say, okay, if that's the way you establish your manhood, I'm going to go for it. Mm-hmm. And my generation says, hey, no good. Okay. You must establish a new base.
I'll agree with that.
And we are, as a group, demanding that a new base be established.
Yeah, but be careful as a woman of what you demand of a man.
I demand that he be a man.
Yeah, but you can't
because
say,
the provision part.
Yeah, but you can't say you demand it. You have to suggest it.
Well, that's your ego that says that. No, I demand it. Now you deal with that.
All right. Okay. I'll even go with that.
I demand that you be a man, and I don't think that that's asking too much. Because if I wanted a provision, I would get a camper. You know what I mean? I would get a camper that provides things. You know what I mean? You get an army surplus kit that provides things. I need a man, and Black men have always been offered to provisions. People are either going to eat or starve to death. The men of beyond, the people were starving that they were still the men. Had to be that way. Through that horrendous kind of war, but it had to be that way because sometimes you are not able to feed your family. Sometimes you are not able to clothe your family. Do you then also deprive them of your manhood and of the input that a man has? Who teaches my son how to pee?
Yeah, but
you see?
Yeah, but you're talking. I agree with you. I see that very well. But it's one thing to be in a situation where you see that you have. Where you see a future, however bloody, and to be in a situation where you see no future at all.
But you are. It is incumbent.
If I know,
it is incumbent
if
that
I know
see a future.
If I know what I'm demanding of you, in some sense, makes sense. If I know the fact the kid is not eating today or tonight or tomorrow, in some way makes sense.
That we just watched, and what I like about that particular conversation, other than the fact, so there's parts of it that I can't really relate to, but there's parts of it that I find super illuminating and useful, and I really like, as much as I adore James Baldwin, I like watching. She was much younger than him, just push back at him like, no, it's your ego, right?
Yeah.
So what is useful for me in that conversation, if we're again staying on the theme of how the society we live in impacts our personal relationships, it impacts the kind of life we live in our families and communities. Basically, they're talking about the fact that in the United States, as a racist society, Black people had limited opportunities, right? So they, at different points, they're blocked from going to school, they're blocked from from getting work that pays well or that's fulfilling, right? And when they go to these jobs or when they go, to these places in a relatively hostile society, they're treated poorly, they're treated badly, but they have to swallow, you go to work. And this is not just Black people. In a capitalist society, many people go to work and are treated very badly and have to suck it up and do so for the sake of getting an income, right? But again, in a racially hierarchical society, a lot of Black people are stuck doing menial work. So she's talking about a dude who goes to work, gets treated like shit, and then takes it out on his family, which is also a very common thing that happens in our society. A lot of the violence So what's useful in this conversation is if you want to understand domestic violence, if you want to understand abuse within families, you have to recognize you live in a society that's abusive. You live in a society that's violent, right? The state is violent to its population. The state is violent to particular groups of people within society. You go to a workplace, your employers are abusive to you, right? And you pretend or suck it up so that you can survive, but that makes us all very angry, miserable people who then take it out on each other. You take it out on somebody weaker than you, right? So in, heterosexual relationships and patriarchal societies, men take it out on their wives, right? Or their kids. So she's talking about a dude who's not emotionally present for his family, who is abusive to his family because of the treatment he receives in the broader society. And James Baldwin's saying she's saying he needs to not come home and harm me. He needs to be nice to me like he's nice to his boss, I don't think it if you, fake it with me, right? She says, which is the quote I pulled out because she was like, you don't have a dream, fake the dream, do whatever you need to do. And Baldwin's saying, well, I can't lie, I need a place where I can be myself. And so it's this debate they're having about about how do we, she's saying basically you can somehow, despite being oppressed in a society, find a way to create love in your home.
Yes.
And he's saying, no, you can't. I guess. He's kind of saying, if you're hopeless or dreamless or you're, subordinated in the way that you are, where are you gonna come up with that love?
Yeah, you can't fake love. You can't
fake happy, you can't fake joy, you can't fake presence, you can't fake a bunch of things if you were suffering because of all the oppression you're experiencing. So it's not like they have an answer, but the question to me is a very important and relevant one because people are still living like that to this day, to varying degrees. And the more, and I was telling this to my partner the other day, or who was I telling? We're having this discussion, but one of my big philosophies for what makes you happy in your romantic relationship is that you have to be fulfilled within yourself. And a big part of that fulfillment comes from the work you're doing in the world, right? So if you're going to a job that you hate, just draining energy from you, how are you going to muster up excitement, joy, love, all of those things? I don't know where I'm getting at with that, except that in a society where there's so much harm being done to so many people, where workplaces are hostile or abusive, like the Antonio Brown story, or where is the love, as Bell Hooks would ask, right? Where are we finding love? How do we create homes of love when we're perpetually in spaces of various forms of harm? That is the question that they're raising for us, and I appreciate it.
I have the answer for that, but I am so all about the healthy debate that they share on that show. There we have it. Giovanni, give her flowers. She's here with us, so please go check out all of her works, and thank you so much for sharing who we have representing for the letter G.